So welcome everybody to the Atelier Melusine. This is the second session to celebrate International Women's Day and also the final celebration for the first part of the project, the Scarlet Women. We've just had a wonderful talk by Stephen Pope on Lilith, and that will be available on YouTube very shortly, as will all the other sessions. I think they're on the website now. I think they're up and live there today. This evening, the meditation, it's one I've done before, and I thought it would be really appropriate considering the situation in Ukraine, as well as feeding on from the theme of Lilith, which is a wider part of the Scarlet Woman. So if you're ready and if you're all comfortable, I shall close the room and ask everybody if they'd like to sit back and close their eyes. So if everyone is comfortable, sits into their seats, into their chairs. And before we start, I'll ask you to breathe deeply and relax. Relax your jaw and your neck and your shoulders and any tensions that you've been holding for the day. Really feel your breath coming into your body, breathing in the light, into your lungs, into your bones, into your heart, into your tissues. Feeling the water, the heat, the light, the liquid, the fire, the air, all flowing through your body. Stretch if you need to. And then I'd like you to imagine in your mind's eye, you're sitting at home in your favorite chair. You're putting on your boots to go on a journey. You're going on a pilgrimage with several companions, but have been delayed. They've had to set off ahead of you, and you will have to ride to catch up with them. You pack your bag, clothes, supplies, and essentials for several nights on the road. What do you take with you? Your bag is packed, your boots are on. You go outside and saddle up your horse. Then you mount and ride out of your home, taking a road across country. What is it like? What is the weather like? You're heading out of your familiar territory. The site of the pilgrimage is in another land across several counties. You ride for several hours through the countryside until you see the walls or outskirts of the border town. Before the walls of a town is a river. You cross this river, which marks the boundary, and approach the town itself. It is just beginning to get dark. The sun is setting. You enter the main gates of the town. What is it like? Is it busy? Is it empty? What are its townspeople like? What are they doing? You have a house in the town, which you keep for travels, business, and for guests. You head through the busy streets and find it. What is it like? You open the door and go in, and your housekeeper greets you. They then take your horse and to feed and water it. You go inside into the kitchen and the dining room. There's food prepared. There's plenty of hot water, and a bed is made for you upstairs. You eat your supper, enjoy the food, then take a bath. You then go into your quarters, prepare for bed, climb in, and fall into a deep sleep. In this sleep, you dream. What do you dream about? Because you're riding to catch up with your party, you awake early before dawn. You get up and get dressed. Your housekeeper has packed your belongings and has your horse ready. You say your goodbyes, mount your horse again and ride through the sleepy town, following the main road out. As you ride, you notice the road slopes gently up and you're riding up a large hill through open fields. You're almost at the top of the hill, and as you crown it, you're surprised to see 3 posts right on its highest point. And tied to these posts are 3 women. You're shocked and ride faster towards them. The women are weeping and bedraggled. The first woman is strikingly beautiful. She's a mature woman, and the sign above her head on the post reads harlot. The second is a heavily pregnant young woman, whose sign says unmarried whore. The third is an elderly crone, whose sign reads witch. You stare at them, shocked at what you see. All 3 cry out to you for help, and you approach more quickly, hastened by their distress. You dismount and run to the first woman, who begs to be freed, explaining that they've all been tried and judged by the village folk, and then been left out here to die at the mercy of wild animals or bandits as a warning for all. She asks you to free her so that they continue on to the next county with you, where they have friends and family, and that they do not perish. You are mortified and, of course, rush to free them. You rummage in your bag and find something to cut them free. First of all, you release the harlot. As you do so, the pregnant woman gives a loud cry. She is in labor, and you both rush to free her. As you do, she collapses to the ground, and you turn to free the elderly woman. As you do this, the first woman dashes back, grabs your horse, and leaps onto its back. She then rides full gallop back towards the town. Again, you're dismayed. You yell and run after her, but to no avail, and the old woman urgently calls you back to help the young mother. It seems useless to pursue her. As you're helping the young pregnant woman, the old crone asks if you have any food and water in your bag, and you find a little and offer it to the girl. She then tells you to collect various herbs that she sees growing nearby, and you bring them to her. Throughout this time, she's instructing the young woman in her breathing, helping her to breathe in and out, and calm her body. They again tell you that they must travel back to the next border for help, or they'll be killed. You agree and try to help the 2 women to their feet. It's very difficult. One is old and frail, the other is heavily pregnant and in labor. It's a struggle just to get them off the ground. The crossing to the next county is only a matter of miles, but the women can only move painfully slowly, every few minutes having to stop and rest. It seems that you've gone no distance down the far side of the hill at all, and are struggling to see in the dim light of dawn when you hear hoofbeats behind you. Anxious that it's the villagers giving chase, you look around to see a wagon and horses thundering towards you, your own horse tied behind, cantering along. As the horses grow nearer, you can see that it's the harlot. She has returned to the town, to the house of the mayor, whom, despite condemning her, had been her lover for many years, and has clandestinely provided horses and a cart to aid your escape. As she pulls up, you lift the woman and the crone onto the back of the wagon, untie your horse, and remount with the harlot at the reins of the chariot and head downhill at a steady pace towards the next river crossing. It's dark. The sun is not yet above the horizon, so you're careful. Again, you begin to worry at how the women will cross. You have your papers, but they have none. As you grow near the checkpoint, you realize that your fears are misplaced. The women are well known to the soldiers at the crossing. The crone has a nephew in the platoon. The father of the young woman's child is well known to the guards, and they relay information as to his whereabouts. And the harlot is greeted with gusto by many. You pass the watchtowers and cross the bridge with speed. Barriers are lifted and replaced. There is no delay. The cart and yourself head off on the far side of the river, along the road, until you reach a fork. The path to rejoin your companions is straight ahead, but the three women are heading left, up the hill into the forest, and it's your choice in which direction to go. You decide to accompany them. It's not far. And you head with them into dark woods, aware that the labor pangs are growing closer together. After some minutes, you come out of the dark woods into an open valley. It's deep and beautiful, and at the far end, carved into the rock of the mountains, is a huge building. You stare at it for a while, taking it all in. What is it like? You realize it is an abbey. You continue to ride at pace, not too fast, across the valley floor, and as you approach the solid stone walls, the sisters of the abbey come out to greet you. They instantly grasp the nature of the situation and who the girl is, and you are ushered gently but quickly up stone steps, then up through halls and corridors, up and up, further through the stone priory or abbey, and come out into a high courtyard, the sisters half helping, half carrying the young woman. Eventually you reach the top, and startlingly you realize you're high up on a cliff face. The courtyard is open on one side and looks out across the landscape in the opposite direction from the one which you've just traveled. Below you there are plains and a river, winding out to a distant shoreline. The sun is just beginning to rise across the horizon, and the view is incredible. It's breathtaking. As you stand and stare, there is more commotion. The young woman's waters break. The sisters surround the girl, strip off her filthy clothes, placing her in a short velvet tunic. They lead her to the edge of one of the many stone pools which appear to be cut in the top of the rock of the courtyard. There's a series of 5 or 6 along the edge with views across the landscape. Each pool is round and shallow with stone steps cut down to walk easily into the water, and the water is warm. The sun is continuing to rise and a young man rushes across the courtyard and embraces the young woman. Without thinking, he and the sisters of the order help her into the pool, calming, encouraging her to breathe deeply, offering her sips of water and singing as they work. Her pangs of labor come closer and closer. And then the flesh cleaves and the waters redden. You stand and watch enthralled, and before you know it, the cries of one woman's pain become the cries of two, and then many voices cry out in joy. A baby boy has been safely born. You stand back in the bright sunlight, taking it all in as best you can. The young woman begins to feed the child at her breast, the young man kneeling at her side while the sisters busy themselves with comforting and cleaning and bringing food and providing shade for the exhausted mother and her new baby. It's a beautiful sight. Then you're called over. You walk across the courtyard. The young woman clasps your hand and you are deeply thanked and your name is asked. You tell her your name. She asks if they might name the child after you, and you're very happy to agree. Another sister is suddenly at your side. She asks you to follow her, and you do so, back across the stone courtyard into the great stone and rock abbey, through more corridors and chambers to the quarters of the abbess. As you walk up to her, she greets and thanks you and asks how she might help, offers you lodgings for the night, but you explain you're on a pilgrimage and need to join your companions. She shakes her head in acknowledgement and says you must stay for lunch with them and that they will provide you a fresh horse and arrange for yours to be returned to the house in town whilst you travel on. You walk with her back to the great hall, which is full of joy and bustle. You eat lunch with the sisters, and on a special occasion such as today, there is wine to celebrate. Enjoy the celebration. Enjoy the food and the wine. You don't eat too much. You know you have to ride on. So you say your goodbyes, are taken back down the stone steps. A fresh horse is brought to you, and you ride back through the valley and the woods to the fork in the road and head back along your original path. You have a great distance to catch up and are very tired, but you are full of joy. You follow the road along the river, winding through leafy woods, light falling through the leaves and the branches, smells and sounds all around you, and you ride steadily until nightfall. There, at the side of the river, you camp in the shelter of a large boulder for the night. You make a fire, eat a little more, and contemplate the questions you're carrying with you to ask at your holy site of pilgrimage. What are your questions? What would you like to ask about your life at this point? After contemplating deeply, you fall asleep, and again sleep very deeply, and again you dream. Of what do you dream on this second night? The next morning you rise again with the sun, pack up your belongings. For a little you walk alongside your horse, and then you mount again and ride, still following the river, but going deeper and deeper into the woods. They change from oaks to conifers, and once again you realize you're traveling slightly uphill. What is the weather like? What is the light like? What can you hear and see and smell? Suddenly, you hear sounds of your companions just ahead and gallop a little to catch them up, ducking branches and jumping fallen logs. As they see you, they greet you with great joy and relief. But there's no time to tell them of your journey so far, as you've reached the sacred site. It is the temple of the Great Mother. From outside, it appears to be a small cabin in a clearing in the woods. In front is a little vegetable garden full of animals and birds chattering noisily, a lizard asleep on a patch of sunlight, frogs, deer, foxes, and spiders. Walking through the vegetable patch, you reach an archway of roses with a little brick path. You go through the archway and pass by a well, walking up to the little wooden cottage. You reach the door. You and your companions are all silent now and take turns to enter one by one. At your turn, you go through the small door, stooping slightly, and enter a dimly lit room. Perhaps a kitchen with a fireplace, a table, a chair. It's very dim and very small. At the back of this room is another door. You walk tentatively up to it and gently push it open. As the door opens, you're almost blinded by the light which rushes out. You step inside, and within this improbably tiny room is an enormous pillar of light. It should burn you, but it doesn't. You step forward again into the stream of light and are lifted up. Lifted up, up, and carried up, and then held in this brilliant light. You are now resting in the light of the Great Mother. You remember the questions you have contemplated and ask them silently. Ask your questions and listen for answers. All the while, the light holds, cleanses, and nourishes you. And you listen for that still small voice. When the time feels right, you feel yourself being slowly and gently lowered, still held in the light, but then placed down. You feel your feet upon the floor. You regain your balance and step back out of the light, bowing and full of thankfulness. Quietly, you leave the room, go back out of the main door, past the well, through the archway, and find a quiet spot to sit while the rest of your companions go into the temple one at a time. The feeling is awesome. When all your companions have been in and returned, you travel as a group in silence, back through the leafy forest, down the hill along the riverbank. Several hours pass and the silence breaks. You decide to make camp by a waterfall. It is beautiful. Fires are lit. Food is prepared. You swim and sing and talk as a group. You share your experience of the Great Mother with each other, and then decide to stay for the night, to rise early again with the sun the next morning. Your group rides the next day back along the river, past the boulder where you camped on the way, along the river and back to the fork in the road, and the short distance then to the bridge and the soldiers. The soldiers allow you to pass happily, eager for news of the baby, and there is much cheer and solidarity. As you cross the bridge, past the barracks, you head back up the great hill to the place where the 3 women had been pilloried. You see the post approaching and realize that the townsmen are there, and they seem puzzled as to where the women have gone. You say nothing and travel past. With your companions, you are not recognized as the lone traveler from several nights earlier. As you crest the hill, you can see the border town and ride easily back down into the urban environment. How does it seem to you now? Has it changed from on your journey out? How do the people seem? Do you think of them differently? You weave through the streets and reach your house again. Your housekeeper is, as ever, prepared for you, and all your needs will be met. You and your companions stay the night at your house, swapping stories and contemplating or writing, and the horses are exchanged. Before you leave the next morning, you write a letter and leave it with your housekeeper to give to the mayor and the townspeople, asking that they reconsider their ways of punishment and telling them that you will be petitioning the king of the land to ensure that they address their ways and their behavior, emphasizing the need for compassion and forgiveness, as well as justice for the children of the land. You ride out through the gates, cross the river, and head as a group towards your home. Back through the landscape that you rode through only days before. What is it like now? Has it changed? What is the weather like? Your companions peel off one by one, back in their different towns and villages, taking their different routes. And once again, you are riding solitary back into your home place. You arrive home, put your horse in the paddock, go through your front door, put away your belongings, and sit down in your favorite chair. You breathe deeply and stretch and open your eyes once again. Back in the room, back in the Zoom room with all of the companions here. And when you're ready, open your eyes and join us back here.